Good morning. Today we are here in New York to announce a historic arrest across a wide-sweeping criminal enterprise that envelops both the NBA and La Cosa Nostra.
On October 23, 2025, the FBI stormed New York in a massive raid. 31 arrests, millions in cash seized, and whispers of dirty cops entangled with the Italian mafia. But what they found next would shatter everything we thought we knew about power, loyalty, and corruption. Operation Royal Flush, the real FBI sting beneath the headline.
I'm Christopher Rea, the Assistant Director in charge of the FBI New York Field Office. Today, as you've heard, our office conducted a massive nationwide takedown.
The story that detonated across social media in late October 2025 began, not with viral thumbnails or online rumors, but with a document, a 97-page federal indictment unsealed on October 23, 2025 by the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of New York. In that filing, prosecutors unveiled what they called a sweeping criminal enterprise built on deception, intimidation, and high-tech gambling fraud, an operation the FBI had codenamed Operation Royal Flush. This wasn't a minor bust or a single poker raid. It was a coordinated, 4-year investigation that penetrated the heart of New York's modern La Cosa Nostra, exposing a network that stretched across 11 states, from Manhattan's basements and Hampton's mansions to Las Vegas hotel suites and Miami penthouses. The criminal organization at its center was sophisticated, using a fusion of technology and tradition to cheat players, launder millions, and keep the mafia's arteries pumping money in an era when old rackets had long since gone underground. Officials from the FBI, NYPD, IRS, Criminal Investigation Division, and the Department of Justice stood shoulder to shoulder at the press conference that morning.
The FBI led a coordinated takedown across 11 states to arrest over 30 individuals today responsible for this case, which is very much ongoing. Not only did we crack into the fraud that these perpetrators committed on the grand stage of the NBA, but we also entered and executed a system of justice against La Cosa Nostra to include the Bonanno, Gambino, Genovese, and Lucchese crime families. And you'll hear more about those details today.
FBI Director Kash Patel called it a historic takedown that struck at the financial pipeline of La Cosa Nostra. NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch described the arrests as proof that organized crime still lurks behind the veneer of legitimate enterprise. At the center of it all were 31 defendants, a blend of mob enforcers, tech enablers, and most explosively, NBA insiders accused of feeding information to the syndicate or serving as celebrity lures in rigged poker games. The charges ranged from wire fraud, extortion, illegal gambling, money laundering, and Hobbs Act robbery, all bound together by the Racketeer-Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, the same RICO statute that once brought down John Gotti. According to the indictment, U.S. versus Aiello et al., the organization was built on two overlapping criminal ecosystems, a rigged poker network and a sports betting fraud ring. Both funneled money directly into the pockets of New York's 4 active mafia families, the Bonanno, Gambino, Genovese, and Lucchese organizations, an unprecedented collaboration unseen since the 1985 Commission trial. The poker operation was unlike anything investigators had encountered in decades. High-stakes underground games took place in private Manhattan clubs, luxury hotel suites, and Long Island estates. Players included wealthy investors, celebrities, and professional athletes, each invited through intermediaries and promised anonymity. But behind the scenes, the games were engineered for defeat. Tables were fitted with X-ray sensors that allowed insiders to see hidden cards. Wireless shuffling machines were synced to smartphone apps through encrypted Bluetooth signals. Even contact lenses and sunglasses embedded with micro displays gave players tied to the mafia a live readout of opponents' hands. Dealers used rigged chip analyzers that automatically adjusted odds in real time. The result, not gambling, but staged theft disguised as luxury entertainment. When wealthy victims inevitably lost, and most did, the mafia's traditional enforcement machinery came alive. Collections were handled through threats, assaults, and fake raids designed to intimidate debtors. In one case described by prosecutors, a Bronx businessman beaten in a Vegas hotel room handed over $1.8 million to the Bonanno family's collectors. Another victim reported being forced to sign over his BMW and $200,000 in cryptocurrency as repayment for a private loan that had, in reality, never existed. The sports betting conspiracy unfolded in parallel. It weaponized insider information from within the NBA itself, non-public data about player injuries, game minutes, and lineup changes. Using those leaks, Mafia associates placed targeted prop bets on legitimate platforms, manipulating odds for enormous profit. Among those charged were 3 prominent NBA figures whose names detonated across headlines.
Individuals such as Chauncey Billups, Damon Jones, and Terry Rozier were taken into custody today. Former, current NBA players and coaches. What you don't know is that this is an illegal gambling operation and sports rigging operation that spanned the course of years.
Chauncey Billups, head coach of the Portland Trail Blazers and Hall of Famer, accused of hosting underground poker games where victims were defrauded of hundreds of thousands of dollars. Terry Rozier, Miami Heat guard, charged with leaking advance injury information to rig betting lines, most notably an early exit from a March 2023 game after 9 minutes, aligning perfectly with a $200,000 under prop bet. Damon Jones, former player and assistant coach, who prosecutors say bridged the poker and betting networks, recruiting wealthy whales and facilitating communications between athletes and mob intermediaries. Each denied wrongdoing, but their arrests shook professional basketball. The NBA immediately suspended all implicated personnel and launched an internal integrity audit. Commissioner Adam Silver appeared before Congress days later, urging stricter rules on gambling disclosures and calling the case a wake-up call about the vulnerabilities that come with legalized betting. What stunned investigators wasn't only the celebrity involvement, it was the inter-family cooperation of La Cosa Nostra. For decades, the Bonanno, Gambino, Genovese, and Lucchese families had guarded their rackets with territorial hostility. Yet in this operation, they divided responsibilities like corporate departments. Bonanno soldiers, such as Ernest Ernie Aiello and Julius J. Ziliani, handled collections, extorting millions from debtors and funneling proceeds through Bronx real estate fronts. Gambino enforcers, including Louis Lou Api Apicella and Joseph Joey Lani, managed extortion and protection rackets, sometimes staging fake security raids to scare rival gamblers. Genovese coordinators, led by Matthew the Wrestler Dadino and Lee the Butcher Fama, oversaw logistics and risk management, including sanitizing venues after FBI surveillance scares. Lucchese bookmaker Seth the Fixer Trustman directed the tech side, contracting Eastern European coders to build AI-driven apps that synced with casino systems and adjusted odds in real time. This collaboration produced what the Mob Museum described as a hybrid model of traditional mafia coercion and digital age fraud. The scheme's profits were siphoned through a chain of shell companies registered in Malta and Cyprus, with cryptocurrency tumblers anonymizing transfers before deposits landed in offshore accounts controlled by LCN lieutenants. From 2019 through 2025, the network defrauded players and bettors of an estimated $7 million, with investigators identifying an additional tens of millions laundered through side ventures. The Department of Justice's official statement also reported about 2.1 million recovered in cash, vehicles, and equipment, funds earmarked for victim restitution. Arrests unfolded before dawn on October 23rd. In Brooklyn, FBI agents stormed Aiello's social club as he counted stacks of poker chips beside a ledger marked Joey 400K. In Miami, Rozier was intercepted during a traffic stop and escorted to federal court. In Las Vegas, Jones was detained at a casino suite, surrounded by surveillance hardware that investigators described as worthy of a spy film. By sunrise, 29 of the 31 defendants were in custody. 2 fugitives, one in Florida, another hiding in Naples, Italy, were captured within the week. Wiretaps, phone data, and crypto wallet tracing formed the backbone of the prosecution's evidence. Agents had intercepted over 3,000 calls, many recorded by a Gambino informant turned federal witness, detailing everything from collections to insider betting discussions. The FBI nicknamed one of the tapped conversations the Bronx Sermon. In it, a Gambino associate warned a reluctant debtor, "Pay up or you'll fold for real, permanently." That single exchange, prosecutors argued, epitomized how the Mafia's 20th century tactics had merely adapted, not vanished. News outlets rushed to capture the story. CNN called it the biggest organized crime gambling takedown in over a decade. The New York Times described it as an intersection of mob legacy and sports celebrity. The Guardian framed it as proof that La Cosa Nostra remains embedded in America's cultural bloodstream, evolving but unextinguished. The Dirty Cops myth and media distortion engine. By dawn on October 24, 2025, less than 24 hours after the FBI's historic Operation Royal Flush press conference, the truth was already being rewritten. On YouTube, thumbnails screamed in neon letters, "Dirty Cops Arrested, 50 million recovered, Mafia Takedown Rocks New York." The headline traveled fast, mutating with every repost. Each time it appeared, the details changed slightly. Sometimes it was hundreds of cops. Sometimes the Mafia had infiltrated the FBI itself. Within 48 hours, this distorted version of reality eclipsed the authentic story of the Mafia's gambling empire. The myth began, ironically, with a kernel of truth, real corruption cases from earlier in the year that had nothing to do with Operation Royal Flush. A few were buried in the archives of the Department of Justice and barely noticed until now. But online, they became the connective tissue for a fantasy in which mobsters, NBA coaches, and rogue NYPD detectives shared the same indictment. The first misstep in the viral chain traced back to Hector Rosario, a former Nassau County detective convicted months earlier for lying to federal investigators about his connections to the Bonanno crime family. According to court filings, Rosario had staged fake police raids on rival gambling dens in Hempstead between 2021 and 2022, earning under $10,000 in total bribes. His crimes were petty by Mafia standards, staged intimidation for low-stakes poker, but they fit the archetype of a cop-turned-mobster. When social media users began searching for Mafia, NYPD, and gambling in late October, algorithms automatically surfaced stories about Rosario's 2025 sentencing. Threads on X then fused the two timelines, Rosario's conviction from March and the FBI's October takedown. Overnight, one man's $8,000 gift was rewritten as a multi-officer, $50 million police conspiracy. The amplification spiraled outward through the content economy of outrage. Channels like Crime Syndicate Files and The Truth Unlocked uploaded side-by-side images of the Rosario mugshot, and FBI Director Kash Patel's October press conference captioned, "FBI exposes mob cops again." None clarified that Rosario's case was separate or that no NYPD officers were indicted in Operation Royal Flush. Meanwhile, other platforms dredged up the ghosts of the 1980s Mafia cops scandal, the infamous case of NYPD detectives Louis Ippolito and Stephen Caracappa, who had moonlighted as hitmen for the Lucchese family. They were convicted in 2006 for orchestrating 8 murders on Mafia payroll, earning life sentences. The saga had already re-entered pop culture in 2025 thanks to a film dramatization, Mob Cops, released that April, and the renewed attention now collided with Operation Royal Flush. As the Mob Museum documented, this historical overlap gave audiences an easy narrative shortcut, the idea that dirty cops and mobsters are forever linked. It didn't matter that the FBI's actual 2025 case involved tech-savvy bookmakers and crypto laundering, not compromised police. Online, the visual rhyme was enough to convince millions that history was repeating itself. Within days, the term dirty cops was synonymous with Operation Royal Flush, even as mainstream outlets continued reporting that no law enforcement officers were implicated. The FBI's own release couldn't have been clearer. In its official statement, the Bureau emphasized that the arrests involved members and associates of organized crime families, not police. Yet the correctional machinery of the internet was already overwhelmed. As BBC's live coverage noted, false claims outperformed the verified story 5-1 on X in the first 72 hours. At the core of the distortion was the psychological lure of corruption. Audiences don't just want crime, they want betrayal. A mafia story is compelling. A mafia story involving cops is irresistible. That emotional hook powered the misinformation loop, the suggestion that the thin blue line was, once again, for sale. Further confusion came from a separate and entirely unrelated September 2025 NYPD corruption plea. Detective Jonathan De La Cruz admitted to feeding inside information to a burglary ring in Queens, taking $5,000 $100,000 in bribes. Though the case involved no mafia connections, aggregators like MSN and Daily Mail rewrote headlines that blurred its timing and geography. NYPD detective pleads guilty to organized crime bribery. To casual readers, organized crime became shorthand for mafia. By late October, hundreds of posts had merged Rosario's Bonanno-linked extortion, De La Cruz's theft ring, and the Royal Flush gambling scheme into one mega conspiracy. In that digital narrative, multiple dirty cops wasn't a claim, it was a given. The misinformation's endurance owed less to ideology than to economics. YouTube and X reward engagement, not accuracy. Videos like FBI busts cops and mafia in New York, $50 million shock, gained millions of impressions because their tags combined high-traffic keywords: FBI, mafia, NBA, corruption. The platform's algorithm interpreted that cluster as topical authority, pushing the content to crime news feeds even as fact-checkers debunked it. A NewsNation report found that the top 10 videos using the dirty cops framing were monetized, generating ad revenue from the very falsehoods they spread. Some even used Dr. DOJ seals and AI-generated courtroom thumbnails to simulate authenticity. Behind the scenes, the actual DOJ filings painted a very different picture. In U.S. versus Aiello et al., prosecutors detailed 0 law enforcement defendants, 0 sealed indictments referencing officers, and full NYPD cooperation during the raids. The FBI's press conference, archived on Facebook via King 5 News, includes Director Patel explicitly thanking the NYPD for extraordinary integrity and partnership. That moment, an inconvenient fact for sensationalists, was edited out of most viral clips. The myth also thrived because it aligned perfectly with audience expectations. In the post-mob cops cultural memory, the mafia's corruption of police isn't ancient history, it's folklore. When viewers saw the words Italian Mafia and New York in proximity to FBI bust, they unconsciously filled in the blanks. Even traditional outlets contributed unintentionally. Headlines from the New York Post and USA Today used phrases like "mob-linked gambling ring rocks the city." And while factually correct, these headlines were scraped and rephrased by smaller websites as "mob-linked NYPD gambling ring," subtly inserting the missing link that never existed. Some distortions were more deliberate. Conspiracy Daily Update published a post claiming leaked transcripts of internal FBI memos about police infiltration. No such documents were ever found in public filings. The website had recycled passages from a 2010s era WikiLeaks release, altering dates and names. At the same time, misinformation surrounding the $50 million recovered claim took a parallel path. The figure likely originated from a September 2125 Gambino fraud case in which $58 million in assets were seized, an entirely separate prosecution that some tabloids conflated with the October gambling bust. Finance Monthly's October 24th headline, "$50 million Mafia gaming ring toppled," collapsed both stories into one, feeding YouTube's algorithm an irresistible round number. Once these two fictions, dirty cops and $50 million, merged, the headline that crowned countless videos was born, and the internet, conditioned to trust repetition over evidence, made it gospel. But while viral outrage spread like wildfire, the institutions accused of corruption, especially the NYPD, faced the collateral damage. Commissioner Jessica Tisch, in a statement to reporters, condemned the digital defamation that painted honest officers as criminals. FBI Director Patel reiterated during a follow-up interview with CNN that the operation's integrity depended on clean law enforcement cooperation. Despite these clarifications, conspiracy channels continued to profit. Each expose or speculative livestream converted controversy into clicks, embedding the myth deeper into public consciousness. Behind the noise, the verified story remained far more complex and arguably more revealing. It wasn't about police betrayal, but about how organized crime evolved to exploit new systems, technology, legalized betting, celebrity access, and digital misdirection. By November, fact-checkers from outlets like AP and Reuters rated the Dirty Cops headline as false, viral, recurrent. The DOJ confirmed again that the case included no police defendants, but the correction never reached the audience that mattered most, the millions who had already shared or watched the misleading content. And while the Dirty Cops narrative was a fabrication, the Mafia's infiltration of modern systems was not. Because beneath the noise, La Cosa Nostra was evolving, faster, quieter, grander and more digital than ever before. Its new rackets weren't in the streets, but in servers, data leaks, and offshore crypto tumblers. The old dons had learned to operate in the cloud. That evolution, the rebirth of organized crime in the digital era, is where the real danger lies. The digital mafia's reinvention and the price of sensationalism.
It takes courageous prosecutors to stand before you and say, we will not allow this kind of illicit activity to happen, not only at the national sporting level, but also where it hides in La Cosa Nostra. And when these two collided together, they perpetrated a fraud that is historic in terms of not just money, but the scheme and the deceit that they utilize to steal and swindle people for money, to include crypto fraud.
To understand why the dirty cops myth found such fertile soil, one must look beyond clickbait and into the organism that birthed the original story, the modern Italian mafia itself. Because while audiences were distracted by phantom police corruption, La Cosa Nostra, the network at the core of Operation Royal Flush, was already adapting to a new century of anonymity, technology, and profit. The Italian-American mafia never vanished after the RICO-era prosecutions of the 1980s. It evolved. Its leaders learned that visibility was death, that power now thrived in opacity. When John Gotti went to prison in 1992, he left behind not a void, but a blueprint. By 2025, the 5 families had become leaner, older, and infinitely quieter, but also more sophisticated. In the aftermath of Royal Flush, investigators pieced together how the 4 families involved, the Bonanno, Gambino, Genovese, and Lucchese organizations, had built a hybrid criminal economy, one that merged traditional extortion with artificial intelligence, cryptocurrency, and insider data. The Department of Justice's filings describe a syndicate that treated fraud like a startup, tech-driven, scalable, and ruthlessly efficient. The Bonanno crew, led by Ernest Ernie Aiello, acted as enforcers and financiers. Their associates collected debts with the same methods their fathers used in the 1970s: threats, intimidation, and, when necessary, brute force. But the money they extracted no longer flowed through cash envelopes or unmarked duffel bags. It moved through crypto mixers, anonymized by services like Tornado Cash, and layered through Maltese shell companies. The Gambino family, under Joseph Lanni and Angelo Ruggiero Jr., provided muscle and logistics. They staged fake raids at poker games to flush out suspected undercover agents, an echo of mob paranoia reborn in the surveillance age. The Genovese family's Matthew Dadino orchestrated schedules and contingency plans, running what one FBI analyst called an illicit operations department with calendar invites. And then came the Lucchese family, represented by Seth, the Fixer Trustman, a bookmaker who embodied the digital turn. His crews weren't counting cards, they were coding scripts. The Lucchese contingent hired Eastern European developers to design apps that skimmed data from online sportsbooks, manipulating live odds based on insider texts from NBA players. It was organized crime through code. As the BBC's analysis noted, this was mafia without the muscle cars or gunfire. Crime conducted through Wi-Fi. The sophistication of the setup stunned federal agents. Their wiretaps captured discussions of AI algorithms, cloud backups, and encrypted backups stored in Switzerland. The mafia, once defined by its violence, had become a data enterprise. The FBI called this financial cyber racketeering, a blend of traditional RICO predicates with new-age digital manipulation. In one intercepted conversation, a Gambino associate joked that the old guys had Tommy guns. We've got Telegram. That evolution explains why the organization could flourish beneath public radar for so long. The poker rooms were theatrical. The real business was data laundering. FBI cyber forensics traced over 12 million in cryptocurrency moving through offshore wallets, with 30% routed back into LCN accounts as tribute. This new mafia operates by corporate logic, decentralized, anonymous, and global. The Mob Museum's profile of the case observed that the old families function less like feudal kingdoms now and more like consulting firms. They subcontract services, violence, tech development, laundering to networks of freelancers who often never meet their bosses. Experts, such as former FBI undercover Joe Pistone, who infiltrated the Bonanno family as Donnie Brasco, argued that this model ensures survival. They don't need soldiers anymore, he said in an interview quoted by USA Today. They need coders, crypto brokers, and influencers who can sell legitimacy. And yet, even Even as the FBI methodically dismantled this apparatus, public attention swerved toward fantasy. The spectacle of dirty cops and $50 million seizures overshadowed the real revelation that America's oldest criminal syndicate had successfully infiltrated one of its newest industries, legal sports betting. The 2018 Supreme Court decision in Murphy v. Obale had legalized sports wagering nationwide, creating a $150 billion market. The mafia saw its opening. No longer restricted to smoky backrooms, betting had moved to smartphones, and so did the mob. Royal Flush's conspirators exploited legal platforms as laundering channels, blending legitimate wagers with rigged bets placed using insider NBA data. The scheme's sophistication highlights how the mafia no longer needs to dominate unions or rackets. It thrives by parasitizing legitimate systems, apps, casinos, cryptocurrencies, turning legality into camouflage. As NBC News reported, the bust proved that La Cosa Nostra remains alive, not in street corners, but in servers. This digital pivot also explains the endurance of mafia mythology in the internet age. The same algorithmic ecosystems that amplified false headlines about dirty cops also sustain organized crime's romanticized image. YouTube channels, podcasts, and docuseries feed an endless fascination with corruption and power, often blurring the line between nostalgia and disinformation. When the viral headline claimed FBI busts multiple dirty cops linked to Italian mafia in New York, 50+ million recovered, it wasn't just a lie, it was a narrative update, a click-era remix of every mafia trope audiences already knew. Corrupt lawmen, big money, secret deals. It was algorithmic storytelling, not journalism. As Politico observed, such sensationalism serves a political function. It feeds public cynicism, blurring distinctions between real investigations and imagined conspiracies. In the process, it erases the genuine triumph of law enforcement. Operation Royal Flush's exposure of the mafia's digital evolution and replaces it with empty spectacle. The damage, however, extends beyond perception. For prosecutors building complex RICO cases, viral misinformation can taint jury pools and compromise witness security. DOJ officials told CBS News that false claims of police complicity triggered harassment against NYPD officers involved in the arrests. FBI analysts described it as psychological warfare through hashtags. Meanwhile, La Cosa Nostra benefits indirectly. Each exaggeration fuels its mythology, the sense of omnipotence that has always been its most potent weapon. When people believe the mafia controls everything, the mafia doesn't need to prove it. Behind the smoke and distortion, the tangible fallout continues. Trials for the 31 defendants in U.S. versus Aiello et al. Are scheduled for mid-2026. The government's asset recovery remains at roughly $7 million. The NBA has tightened its integrity protocols, adding AI-powered monitoring systems to detect irregular betting patterns. Vegas regulators are auditing casinos linked to high-risk games, and Congress has reopened hearings on insider betting reform. The broader lesson is stark. In an age where attention is currency, truth must now compete on market terms. The mafia learned long ago that perception is power. The internet simply monetized it. Consider the parallel evolution. La Cosa Nostra abandoned visible violence to survive the RICO era. Digital media abandoned verifiable truth to survive the algorithmic era. Both discovered that subtlety pays better than blood. Today's mafia doesn't need to silence journalists. It lets misinformation drown them. It doesn't need to buy politicians. It buys credibility through entertainment and nostalgia. In that sense, every viral thumbnail proclaiming Mafia returns is part of its marketing campaign. Yet, amidst the noise, one fact endures. The real Operation Royal Flush was a victory for evidence, not conjecture. Its story deserves to be told precisely because it defies cliché. It wasn't about corrupt cops. It was about disciplined law enforcement dismantling a 21st century crime syndicate built on technology and deceit. When FBI Director Kash Patel declared, "We followed the money and found the future of organized crime," he wasn't exaggerating. The operation revealed not only where the mafia had gone, but where it was heading. That trajectory into data, crypto, and insider markets marks a new era in American organized crime. The families are no longer defined by neighborhoods, but by networks. They operate across jurisdictions and jurisdictions of thought, exploiting not only systems of finance, but systems of belief. The viral dirty cops narrative, though false, is emblematic of that new underworld. Deception as infrastructure. A rumor today is worth more than a racket once was. In this landscape, the FBI's October 2025 takedown takedown represents more than a criminal case. It's a snapshot of a society where organized crime, media distortion, and algorithmic manipulation coexist, each feeding the other in a loop of profit and paranoia. When history remembers Operation Royal Flush, it may not recall every name in the indictment or every dollar seized, but it will mark this moment as the collision of two forces: a centuries-old mafia adapting to the cloud and a 21st century public adapting to misinformation. One thrives on secrecy, the other thrives on spectacle. Both, when left unchecked, corrode truth itself. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, click on one of the suggested videos on your screen right now for more amazing content.